What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another review, and this time we're taking a look at the second installment into Disney Plus's MCU TV shows, and this one is the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. The basic overall premise of the show: Bucky and Sam team up to take on a global-wide terrorist organization known as the Flag Smashers. That's the overall premise of the show. Let's go over this thing episode by episode. My overall thoughts on the show is this: fundamentally better than WandaVision. Much shorter than WandaVision, only having 6 episodes. It does have some good moments in it, has good acting, has good production values, but the way this show told its story and what it did to the greater MCU and how it just disrespected the legacy of certain characters really left a very bad taste in my mouth. So I'm going to do my best to go over every single episode and just give you my pros and cons on each one and my overall final thoughts on the show. All right, so episode 1 has a lot to unpack, and it pretty much sets the stage for what's to come in the show. So we see Sam struggle with Cap's shield to the point where he gives it to a museum as he feels that a black man is just not ready to be Captain America, and that the world itself is not ready to be Captain America, which leads to him having a pretty okay conversation with James Rhodes, who makes a 1-episode appearance in this show. Their scene together is not bad. It's basically, like I said, ends with Sam saying that the world is not ready for a black Captain America, and Rhodes saying that government enemies are now allies and government allies are now enemies, and that the world has changed, pretty much. But Rhodes pretty much ends it by saying that he has a semblance of faith that Sam's thoughts can be misguided in a sense. That's the overall implication I get from that conversation. A decent little scene. Fun to see Don Cheadle return as James Rhodes, even though it's for like a 1-episode thing. It's still fun. That's it. That's all I got to say about that. Then we get to the opening scene. Then there's the opening scene that precedes that, which is actually one of the best action set pieces out of the entire show, in which Sam, as the Falcon, is fighting Batroc from Winter Soldier. The entire opening action sequence of the show, of the first episode and of the show, is actually really fun. Really well done, and it's a nice little nod to Winter Soldier as well by having Batroc. Batroc was the opening villain in that movie, and now he's the opening villain in this show. I like that little callback, and it's a fun action sequence. But instead of being on a boat, it's in the air. So no complaints about that. It was well done. It looked pretty cool. Now we have, and we also set up the Flag Smashers, who have this belief that life was better during the blip. And ever since the blip happened, the government has been forcing people to be relocated and be forced to live other lives. That's the overall premise of the Flag Smashers terrorist group, and I will get to how much I hate this group and how much I hate the character of Carly momentarily. But let's proceed with the episode 1. Then we switch over to Bucky, who is attending therapy to amend his crimes as the Winter Soldier. We get a flashback to him killing some guy in a hotel room. We learn that the guy he killed is actually the son of a man that he's actually befriended since regaining his memories. I like the whole idea of Bucky having to go to government-mandated therapy in order to atone for the crimes he committed. But they don't really expand upon this idea past the first episode and slightly in episode 3. Not episode 3. I think episode 2 or 3. Then they have one follow-up session with Sam, and then the therapist just disappears and we don't see her again. Like the concept of Bucky going to therapy to deal with his nightmares of the Winter Soldier still being within him could have been cool and could have made for some really good PTSD moments. But the show hinted at it, teased it, never fully explored it, which I think is a damn shame. Because that could have been a nice wrinkle to Bucky's character as a whole, and something that this show could have really explored. Instead, I never get the sense of Bucky having any PTSD moments in this show. So that's just, those are my thoughts on that. However, the stuff with Yuri, I like that Bucky has a friend who, in his mind, is much closer in age to him in a real life context. Bucky's 106. The character of Yuri is a much older man. But, since Bucky was frozen in ice, it was preserved, whatever. But I do like that concept, and I like the whole idea of this guy Yuri trying to help Bucky assimilate to a normal life post not having Steve Rogers anymore to be his wingman, so to speak. You know, that's another thing the show could have touched upon, but didn't really do further exploration with, which is also a shame. Well, how does Bucky assimilate to life without Steve? We see glimpses of it, but the show never fully expands upon it in a way that's satisfying or interesting. That's just my view on that. There's this guy named Torres who was also introduced at the beginning of the show, who works with the Falcon. He goes undercover in Switzerland and sees the Flag Smashers robbing a bank. The character of Torres is the one who discovers that these Flag Smashers have superhuman strength, having taken the super soldier serum that was first created by Dr. Erskine in Captain America 1. The show tries to explain how this serum was recreated, and I think it was very flimsy and very stupid. Dr. Erskine should have been the only one who knew the ingredients for the super soldier serum, and after he created it, he should have just I think he destroyed it. I don't like how you were able to recreate it just to make your fourth story work. And I'll get to that momentarily as well. Just planting seeds for a lot of things I did not like with this show. Yeah, and he basically tells Wilson what it is he knows. Now we focus on Sam Wilson, and we see the introduction of his sister Sarah. We see that they have a home in Louisiana, and they have a boat, like a fishing boat. They try to get a loan, but it doesn't work since Sam has a lack of income. I like how the show does not touch upon the fact that the guy was dusted for 5 years. You can't make an income when you're dead. I just found that entire scene with the bank to be utterly stupid, to be honest with you. And the whole bank guy marking out for Sam because he's the Falcon and being an Avenger, and them having a very cheesy conversation about, oh, I really wanted to be an Avenger. I thought that whole bank scene was completely nonsensical and stupid, because if you look at the context of Marvel, Sam knows the Avengers. He kind of has a relationship with people like Pepper Potts and stuff like that. He could have easily made someone a call and say, hey, listen, can you give me a loan? I like how we just ignore these things and like they don't exist, because now and all of a sudden they just don't exist and they barely make any references to it. Questionable. And the episode ends with the introduction of John Walker, played by Wyatt Russell, who is the new Captain America, who's the government-mandated Captain America. This moment is where the show, to me, planted seeds of, okay, this can be very, very interesting. How will the world react to someone else picking up the mantle of Captain America? Of course, both Bucky and Sam are shocked at this announcement, as, you know, Sam thought that the government was going to take the shield, put it in the Smithsonian. Instead, they had other ideas. They want to keep the idea of Captain America alive, which is why now they're having a government-sponsored Captain America. So, episode 2 opens up with John Walker, who is properly introduced. We get his credentials. No, he's a very decorated captain. He's a very decorated war hero. No, he's a by-the-book type of guy. He's pretty much the equivalent of a company man, somebody who does his orders, doesn't question it, and just does the job that he's tasked with doing, no questions asked. Pretty much, John Walker to me feels like an everyman, a common man, like a guy that you can relate to, someone who just looks at this thing as a job, but at the same time, he wants to do good in the role of Captain America. He wants to live up to the legacy of Captain America. I think episode 2 does a good job at establishing John Walker, his character, his motivations, and what he wants to do while in the mantle of Cap. I enjoyed all that. Of course, Sam and Bucky are not too pleased about this, and they join forces to find the Flag Smashers. So, you know, they travel to Munich, they find the Flag Smashers smuggling meds and vaccinations, and they see a hostage, but the hostage is revealed to be this girl named Carly, who is the overall leader of the Flag Smashers. And, you know, there's this whole chain sequence where Carly and Sam, along with Bucky, John, and John's partner Lamar, have this big fight, and it's entertaining. However, my thing is this. The character of Carly, I don't like this character at all. I think she's horribly written. I think the actress is just not good in the role. I don't think the actress is good at all. General, I didn't like her in Solo. I think she's a horrible actress. She has no on-screen presence. Her physical, and trying to convince me that she can handle herself physically against, you know, trained soldiers is bafflingly confusing. And the fact that she holds her own because she took a serum, it doesn't make much sense to me. You're just a kid. You should have... I don't care if you took a super soldier serum. It does not give you It does not automatically give you the power to hold yourself in a fight. Steve Rogers took the super soldier serum and he still had to train. And he still had to go through government training before that. We don't know what kind of training Carly took. It doesn't look like she took any kind of training because she looks like she's sloppy in a fight. And yet she still holds her own. I hate the character of Carly. And as the show progresses, I hate her even more. And I hate the whole concept of the Flag Smashers too. I think it's stupid. Especially when you find out that Zemo ends up being in the show. And why couldn't we just make Zemo the overall villain of the show? Anyway, I digress. So, Walker and Lamar, they asked Sam and Bucky to join them to aid GCR, which is the Global Repatriotism Council, which is, this government foundation that wants to rehabilitate people, I guess. I don't know. It's ridiculous. But they want to join the council so that way they can squash any post-blip revolutions. But Sam and Bucky want no association with these two. Okay. Carly and the Flag Smashers then receive a threatening text from a mysterious power broker. And when we actually find out who the power broker is, I'm left scratching my head as to how this person all of a sudden took a giant leap to a heel turn. And why did she want, and why does this particular character do this? Further questioning, why couldn't we have just had Zemo be the overall villain of this show? Anyway. Sam and Bucky then go to Baltimore. They visit Isaiah Bradley, who was an African-American super soldier that no one knew about during the Korean War. It's also revealed that Bradley was the one who had a win over the Winter Soldier during one of the Winter Soldier's missions. What a way to demystify the Winter Soldier. He's supposed to be this unstoppable killing machine, and now now when he's in brainwash mode, we're gonna turn him into someone's punk. Awesome. All to prop up this Isaiah Bradley character. Listen. I like the actor Carl Lumbly. I thought his performance as the character was really, really good. He had a lot of emotion. I just don't like the idea of throwing characters under the bus to prop up new characters. I think it sucks. Especially this Isaiah Bradley character who comes across as this disgruntled guy. And then when you get his history, he's like, oh, the government made me a super soldier, and then the U.S. government and Hydra experimented on me, and blah 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 blah. It's like, okay. I'm sorry that this happened to you, but whatever. After this whole conversation where we meet Isaiah Bradley and his son Eli Bradley, who plays the character called Patriot, who was a young Avenger, Sam and Bucky are then stopped by the police, which is ridiculously stupid. It's meant to play into real life politics about how if you're a black man, the cops are always going to stop you. Sam's an Avenger. He's very well known. How these cops did not know who he was at first glance is bafflingly confusing. How can a bank teller know who Sam is and a bunch of cops who don't know who Sam is? It doesn't make any sense to me. It feels like forced commentary. But anyway, Bucky gets arrested because he missed a therapy session. This leads to Sam and Bucky doing a joint therapy, which is played for laughs and played for comedy, and comes across more as them going to a marriage counselor, which is halfway funny. But prior to that, it's revealed that John Walker was the one who posed Bucky's bail because he wants Sam and Bucky to join him and Lamar in their fight. Like, John Walker wants to do the right thing. He's not doing things behind their back. He wants them to join his team so that way they can fight against a common cause together. But Sam and Bucky just refuse because they still got a sore spot that the government took Cap Shield and gave to somebody else. Anyway, with all that being said and done, the Flag Smashers then get attacked by the Power Broker's men after a deal gone wrong or something like that. Bucky and Sam then decide to enlist the help from Zemo in order to find the Flag Smashers. And episode 3 is where the show starts to get halfway interesting, at least to me, at least. But episode 3 also has a lack of Walker and Lamar, who have a couple of scenes peppered all throughout, but don't really do much, which is a shame. You could have expanded more on this. But here we go. Bucky and Sam go to Berlin. They talk to Zemo about the Flag Smashers. Bucky starts a prison riot to break Zemo out of jail. Then Bucky, Sam, and Zemo go to Mandrapore, where they got to get the attention of this person named Shelby, who's like a arms dealer type of human being. They do that. She reveals that the power broker hired this guy named Dr. Nigel to recreate the super soldier serum. So but then their cover gets blown when Sam's sister calls them, and then a bunch of bounty hunters target the group until they're saved by Sharon Carter. Like in this tussle, the Shelby character is killed. But yeah, Sharon Carter, played by Emily Van Camp, she returns to the show, and she has a couple of scenes peppered all throughout the season. She doesn't really do much until you get to like until you get to episode 6. But yeah, I'll get to Sharon Carter momentarily. Yeah. So they meet up with Sharon Carter. Then they meet Nigel, who says that his recreated serum was stolen by Carly. Carly wants to give. Carly takes the super soldier serum to give her and her group of terrorists, the power to stand up for the oppressed or some nonsense like that. And then Zemo just randomly shoots Nigel. I guess because Nigel is the second man in the entire MCU who knows how to recreate the super soldier serum. What a way to take a giant load on Dr. Erskine from Captain America Civil War, and you make his character, who is special, into just some clown. Awesome. In the onslaught, Walker and Lamar deduced that Bucky and Sam broke Zemo out of jail. That's their only contribution to this entire episode. They don't do anything. The Flag Smashers then raid GCR facility, and Carly blows it up as a message. And I like how Carly, the character, this is where the character of Carly starts to irritate me. She fancies herself as a freedom fighter, yet she has no business killing the lives of people, especially people who have no desire to fight against her cause. They're just there doing a job, and she shows absolutely no remorse in killing them. But yet we're supposed to feel sympathy for this person and consider her a misguided kid. No, she's not misguided. She's an asshole, and she's evil, and she deserves to get what she deserves. I hate the character of Carly, by the way. Zemo, Barnes, and Sam search for Carly. Bucky sees AO from Wakanda, and she demands that Zemo be taken to face Wakandan justice. All right. So now we're going to shoehorn the Wakandas into this story. Did we not watch Civil War? T'Chaka, without actually saying it, he pretty much forgave Zemo and moved on with his life. Pretty much saying that revenge is not how he wants to live his life. And he was going to let Zemo face natural justice. Now all of a sudden one Wakandan out of the entire nation wants to get revenge because reasons? Whatever. A forced way to shoehorn the Wakandans into this story, to be honest with you. Bucky confronts AO, who wants Zemo for killing T'Chaka. We also get a scene of Bucky and AO bonding while Bucky was spending his time being reprogrammed in Wakanda to have the brainwashing taken out of him. Bucky, Sam, and Zemo search for a campus Flag Smasher sympathizers. Zemo finds a memorial service for Donna Mandani, Carly's adopted mom. Of course, finding this service is how they're going to find Carly, which they eventually do. In the while, Walker and Lamar confront the duo. Sam convinces them to let him talk to Carly about changing their ways. Walker interrupts and fights ensues. Zemo shoots at Carly. She drops super soldier vials, which she destroys. AO and the Dara Mirage come for Zemo. Walker refuses. A fight then begins. He's humiliated when Zemo escapes. Walker talks to Lamar about the serum. Lamar suggests Walker will always make the right decision and would save lives by taking said serum. Pretty much, John Walker's best friend pretty much convinces him to take the serum, in a way. So that happens. Yeah, that happens. Then Carly divides her group and threatens Sam's sister. Walker and Lamar attack the Flag Smashers. Sam notices Walker took the serum. Lamar is killed in the battle. Walker then kills this character named Nico, who had an association with Carly all throughout the first half of the season with the shield in public and its film. So now episode 3 is where it starts to get really interesting for me, at least. Episode 4 is where it starts to get very interesting for me when it comes to John Walker's character. So he takes the super soldier serum, it augments his strength, and then his best friend is killed. And now this government mandated Captain America, who is supposed to be the embodiment of all that is good, he is filmed killing he's shown brutally killing a guy and bloodying up the shield that was given to him. This laid down the groundwork for something that could have been extraordinarily interesting with the Walker character. And when we eventually get to what happens in episode 6, I am left very just empty. Like, you set up something that could have been very interesting. Okay, John Walker, he's not like Steve Rogers. Steve Rogers was a different guy than John Walker. But John Walker is still presented as somebody who's doing the right thing. And I like the bond that he has with his friend Lamar. I thought the two actors, Wyatt Russell and the actor who played Lamar, have really good on-screen chemistry, and I buy them as being friends. Now this man's friend was killed right before him, and he goes absolutely savage on the guy. What will happen in episode 5? Let's talk about it. So, Sam and Bucky pursue Walker and fight after Walker refuses to hand over the shield. Walker breaks Sam's wingsuit, but the duo end up breaking his arm in the process. So, pretty much this is Walker in full-blown revenge mode with the super soldier serum within him, augmenting his strength. But he's still overpowered by 2 guys. Which, okay, whatever. I can buy it. I'll let it slide. I'll buy it. Bucky eventually finds Zemo in Sokovia at a memorial. This goes back to Civil War, with Zemo being the one who pretty much orchestrated the entire divide of the Avengers, because the Avengers, with the fight with Ultron and Sokovia and Zemo's family dying in Sokovia. So I get all that. But Bucky, ends up handing him to the Daryl Mirage. And that's the last we see of Zemo, and that's the last we see of the Wakandans. How this is going to play out, I do not know. Whatever. Walker then gets an honorable discharge from the U.S. government, but is ultimately stripped of his role as Captain America. And this enrages Walker. And this is where the character of Walker really starts to get interesting, because he flat out says, I have done everything you've ever wanted me to do. I always did every single mission. I fought for my country. I am the equivalent. He's the equivalent of a company man doing what the company tells him and not questioning it. And now, when he needs it the most, they're pretty much turning their back on him. This adds a very interesting wrinkle to the John Walker character that could have been easily expanded upon in episode 6. And you could have taken the character in some good directions. But I'll get to episode 6 when I get to it. But anyway, he then meets Contessa Allegra de Fontaine, the character of Val, who was first introduced in this show, played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus. She pretty much agrees with Walker's actions about killing the guy, and pretty much says that down the road they'll do some business later. So you're laying the groundwork for what could eventually become for John Walker, post this show, that is. So yeah, and pretty much that's the end of Walker. He has a brief visit with Lamar's family, and this entire scene is really, really cool. I like the scene a lot. And you really see the pain and anguish in Walker's face by talking to his best friend's family. And you can sense that he has a sense of failure for protecting his friend. And that just further enrages him even more. I like this. Like, up to this point, I was really liking what they were doing, what they were doing with the John Walker character. Like, really liking it. Makes me wonder, why waste our time with fucking Carly when Walker and Zemo could have been better suited to be the leads. Walker could have been a protagonist who on that slow journey to being villainous, while Baron Zemo once again is pulling the strings, and then you have the whole power broker thing. Instead, we get Carly and the Flag Smashers that ruin the whole thing for me. Sam then visits Baltimore again. Once again, he talks to Isaiah. They have a conversation about how Isaiah freed imprisoned soldiers that were being experimented on, and flat out says, a black man can't be Captain America. I'll get to this when I get to this in episode 6. Then Sam goes back to Louisiana, and with the help of Bucky and some locals, they help his sister fix the family's boat to get them out of debt. Cool, whatever. And the show hints that Bucky and Sarah might have a little bit of a romance happening in the future, which I'm actually interested in, to see how Bucky and Sarah have a romance and how that will affect the relationship with Sam. Since he and Sam have an antagonistic friendship going on. That could be a nice little wrinkle if they choose to expand upon it, which I hope they do. Then Bucky then gives Sam a briefcase from the Wakandans. It ends up being the Falcon Captain America suit, which actually looks cool in live action, by the way. I really like how it looks. The design looks really awesome. Sam and Bucky then train and move on from the past and this scene gave Rogers and Bucky white guilt, which I thought was completely flabbergasting and stupid. I mean, why would Bucky and Rogers feel sorry for giving a black man the shield. They're from the 1940s. They should have the sense of the right man for the job should get the shield. They both think that Sam's the right man for the job. So why does Bucky have a sense of white guilt? And why does he have that on behalf of Steve Rogers also? I thought that was utterly and completely ridiculous. And we'll get to more of that when we get to episode 6. Anyway, the Flag Smashers then plan an attack on GCR with Batroc, who gets broken out of prison after getting a phone call. And the phone call was done by Sharon, who was revealed to be the power broker. Why she turned villainous, I don't know. Walker then builds a new shield from scrap metal and uses his Medal of Honor also. So John Walker is now going to come back. And suit up, and this is going to be very interesting. All right, now we're into episode 6, the ultimate finale. So a lot happens in episode 6. Basically, Sam goes to New York, saves his GCR from the Flag Smashers. Bucky and Sharon aid him. Sam fights Batroc. Smashers take hostages. Wilson pursues hostages in a helicopter. Bucky intercepts a group in a truck. Carly sets the truck on fire to distract Bucky. Bucky saves people, joins Walker to fight the Smashers. Carly and Walker then have a fight, and Carly completely washes Walker in this fight. This is where they jumped the shark with the Carly character and made me hate her even more. And this is where they made the John Walker... This episode does more damage to John Walker's character, and it's ridiculous. You have Walker, who is a trained soldier with a lot of credentials, built up after serving years in the military, trained. The super soldier serum enhanced his abilities that were already there. And he also, and he also held his own without the serum. Now you have Walker, who is now in super soldier mode, taking on Carly, who is a glorified terrorist. No training. And you have Carly wash this guy. Not wash this guy. Walker barely got any shots on this woman. And when he did, it felt like it unfazed her. Why? Stupid. Why do I hate the Carly character? Let me count the reasons why. This character sucks. And John Walker was made to look like a chump. Not once, but twice in this episode. Because you couldn't even let the guy save people from a truck. He needed help from the Falcon. Episode 6 completely just made Walker look like a complete and utter chump. After I thought the previous episodes did a really decent job at making him and turning him into a somewhat interesting character that could have gone a long way. Instead, you take everything away from Walker. He gets washed by Carly. He can't save people, and then he doesn't even get revenge on Carly for pretty much killing his friend. And the fact that Carly shows no remorse for killing Walker's friend should have made Walker want to kill this woman even more, and he still can't even get that satisfying conclusion. Why? Why did you not give... Why? Walker killing Carly could have been the final turn for him going into a darker route. Instead, he doesn't even do that, which is stupid and it sucks. Instead, you have Sharon, who is ultimate... And when this episode is actually revealed as the power broker, you have her kill Batroc, you have her kill Carly, and Walker's left out in the cold just doing nothing. And then after all that nonsense, you get this infamous speech, the "you gotta do better" speech by Sam, which completely undercuts everything that Steve Rogers stood for. This speech is horrible. It's terrible. I hated it. I hated it. I hated it. I hated it. This is the writers going on their soapbox and being overly political. And you pretty much turned Carly, who was a terrorist who was killing innocent people, into this misguided oppressed kid who wanted to do right by the oppressed. This is dumb. You can't do the shit you did with Carly in this season and then expect me to feel sorry for her. Why do I hate the character of Carly? Let me count the ways why. This show turned a glorified serial killer into a martyr. Somebody who had no qualms with killing innocents, you turned her into a martyr. This is dumb. And the whole thing of the oppression was stupid. Sam pretty much taking a giant load on Steve Rogers and his legacy, saying, "I ain't no blue-eyed, blonde-haired man." By saying that, you took a giant dump on Steve Rogers, a guy who befriended you post his post his freezing and post his being unfrozen. A guy who trusted you to take up the mantle of Captain America because he saw himself in you. And you just take a giant piss on that. Fuck, I hate this. Fuck, I hate this episode and I hate this speech. I hate what they did. Anyway, I don't want to dwell so much on that speech because I freaking hate it so much. The remaining Flag Smashers are killed by Zemo's butler, whatever. Val and Walker meet up again. Val gives Walker the new suit, turns into a U.S. agent. This was done in a very flimsy way. I wish they would have had... I wish Walker would have killed Carly. It would have made his revelation as the U.S. agent and having more of an association with Val mean more, to me at least. Sam has closure with Isaiah by taking him to the Smithsonian, where he sees a statue of himself and his services being honored, whatever. Carter, then we get then Sam and Bucky have a celebration in Louisiana, and the post-credit sees Carter back with the CIA, and then her making an ominous call to somebody saying that the power broker now has access to government secrets, which basically sets up Captain America 4. I wanted to like the Winter Soldier and the Falcon and Winter Soldier a lot. I was looking forward to this show out of all the MCU Disney Plus shows. And this was the one that just disappointed me more because it did certain things that I just absolutely hated. It set up things that could have been very, very interesting. But this show was more interested in going on a soapbox than it was at telling a good story. What made the 3 previous Captain America movies work was that it told the story first, and yet did shine light on some political commentary, but it never took away from the actual show. But it never took away from the actual film story and what the greater goal was. This show, to me, was built out of the whole idea of, we got to make everything racial, you know. We got to touch on how a black man can't be Captain America, even though Steve Rogers chose Sam Wilson because he saw himself in him. And the entire show should have been Sam proving that he was the right choice to be Captain America, despite being black or not being black. Instead, the show doubles down on Sam saying, I'm black and I got to be Captain America because I got to do it for the community who looks like me. That is so dumb. That is so stupid. And it goes into this whole modern age where you're only supposed to idolize people that look like you instead of just idolizing people that inspire you, regardless of anything. That's what I hate about this show. It has some good moments. It had really good acting all around, with the exception of a handful of people. Good action sequences, even though the first episode had the best set piece, but the other action sequences peppered out are really good. It was setting up some interesting directions with certain characters, but the payoffs did not work for me, and I just didn't like it at all. And I'm sorry, I'm just going to give this show a solid 5 out of 10. It's on the same level as WandaVision, but this show pissed me off more. Maybe 5 out of 10 is a little bit too generous, but whatever. It's very even-handed. The positives and the negatives are very close together when it comes to this show. It had good things that could have been that it teased but didn't even expand upon, and then they did things that I absolutely just did not like. A 5 out of 10 for the Falcon and Winter Soldier, mainly for the fact that the season was shorter, the episodes were only 6, and they were more digestible. But other than that, yeah, those are my thoughts on the Falcon and Winter Soldier. Let me know yours in the comment sections down below. Sorry this video went very, very long. I just had a lot to say. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comment sections down below. Like the video and subscribe. I'll check you back next time for more.